So last night on Monday Night Football, the Bucs did win, and they won by 20. And normally, a team that wins by 20 has a quarterback that looks really happy, especially when he's gotten 300 yards under his belt, another 300-yard game of his stellar Hall of Fame unicorn career. But Tom Brady is in fine-tuning mode. He's in fine-tuning mode, and thus had this to say after boat racing the Giants.
Every day that goes by is closer to the end of the season, and every game is more important because there's fewer of them, and you don't get them back. So we're at a decent point, but we could play a lot better than we played. And 7-3, through 10 games, there's a lot to learn from, and hoping our best football's ahead of us.
And I saw that, and I thought to myself, how far have the Giants fallen? How far has this franchise fallen? That the guy that they beat twice in the Super Bowl, a guy who they denied being the first ever 19-0 quarterback, right? First ever 19-0 quarterback, denied that from him and then denied him a second time, twice. That franchise is now losing to this guy who is Tom Brady. I understand. He's now still going at age 44, upset that he didn't fine-tune well enough against that franchise. That's how far the Giants have fallen. They're a team that you fine-tune against when you're Tom Brady, trying to go for back-to-back Super Bowls at age 44. And, of course, they're a team that you want to fine-tune against when they fall to 21-53 since that ill-fated wild card week boat trip by some members of the team down to South Florida in their last playoff season of 2016. 21-53. That is a winning percentage of 28.4%. We always do the math for you here. That's what's happened to this franchise. And it's just, wild, some of the things that you see from this team that has constant trouble trying to build an offensive line. Constant trouble trying to build an offensive line, and then still builds the team as if they've got the offensive line to protect the quarterback to get him more weapons, like drafting Saquon Barkley and like signing Kenny Golladay to the richest contract of the wide receiver offseason. And yet, with all those talented players, you can't put it all together. So maybe it's the coaching. This was Joe Judge after the game last night when asked if, the coaching was the issue, and in particular his offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett.
Is it fair to say, you've come back on it a few times tonight, you're not putting the players in the good enough position to succeed? That seems you're taking it as, it's more the coaches than the players. Is that a fair read on how you're?
Yeah, put that on down. You can put that down tonight. Got that? You guys can write that tonight. All right. Now, the players got to execute. That's their job, right? It's our job to teach them. It's their job to go out there and execute. But we've got to make sure we keep putting them in a position to have success. And it's got to be consistently that way. So, you can go ahead and write that down, and I'm not going to debate that.
So he was then asked if Jason Garrett was still going to be the offensive coordinator. He says he was not prepared to talk about that right now. Well, I guess he is now, because according to reports out of New York City, Jason Garrett is being fired as offensive coordinator of the New York Giants. And that is the last-ditch maneuver of a head coach and front office that's run out of options, with a fan base that is ready to put somebody's head on a pike, to use the Game of Thrones phrase. It's unfortunately Jason Garrett's. Unfortunately for Jason. Fans might say this is great because it's the scheme that's been a problem. Like a 3rd and 2 last night after the Giants defense had the Bucs march 18 plays, 79 yards, held them to a field goal, and then next what the Giants do is go 3 and out. On a 3rd and 2, all you got to do is look at Brian Baldinger's Twitter account. He had the breakdown of it. There were 3 guys running man beaters against his zone, and 3 guys were just bunched right in the middle of the field, surrounded by linebackers. And Jones had nowhere to go. And the 3-man rush, because 8 men dropped in the zone, one of them got home and Sue to rush the throw. It looked terrible. It looked terrible on defense too. When the whole world knew, okay, you got to double. I mean, this is what the Mannings were saying last night as I was watching the Manning cast. It's 3rd and goal. It's a 17-10 game, and the Mannings are like, you got to double who? Who do you have to double? Pate asks E, and E goes to Pate. Well, you got to double Evans, right? You got to double Gronk. They wound up doubling Brait, wrong tight end, because the motion got the defenders out of whack, and there was Evans' touchdown. So instead of being 20-10, it's 24-10. And how did Daniel Jones respond to that? He threw one of the most dreadful picks I've seen.
It's like
right,
the defensive lineman that was sitting down.
Correct. Is that on Garrett, or do you just have the wrong quarterback? You have the wrong system, or do you have the wrong roster? You don't have an offensive line, so let's add to Barkley. Let's add Kenny Golladay. Really? And then Kadarius Toney. Let's draft him. And let's just get the ball out of our hands in 2 seconds because the quarterback can't be protected? That's why I'm saying this is the act of a coach who knows he's going to get got. You got to throw the offensive coordinator overboard. It's weird stuff, too. Like, was it Garrett's call at the end of the first half when the Giants have the ball in their 9-yard line with 2 timeouts to go? Was it Garrett's call to throw one to Barkley for no gain, let the clock tick down, throw it again for an 11-yard gain out to the 20, and then burn one of your 2 remaining timeouts? And then it was like one of those horror movies where you're watching through your fingers. You know the calls are coming from within the house. You know the guy with the axe is coming to create a turnover. You know it. We saw it. I've sensed it. Okay? I was sitting there getting ready to go on Monday Night Football halftime show, listening to the call of Kevin Harlan and Tony Baselli. Baselli's like, "What are they doing? You're going to invite a turnover. You're backed up on your own end. You get the ball to start the second half. You're inviting trouble. You're down 17-10. What are you doing?" Sure enough, throw it down the field. One of your receivers puts it on the ground, and there was a split second in the world where the Bucs had a turnover on the plus side of the field going the other way. Lucky for them, they didn't score. Was that Judge's call? Or is he just saying, Jason, you operate it how you see fit? Doesn't the HC basically say, take a knee, let's get out of here? Weird stuff. Weird stuff all around. It's weird on the roster. It's weird with the coaching, with the play calling, with the decision making. It's just been weird. And the weird is just the general nice way to say unacceptably awful. So who's next? It appears to be somebody that Browns fans are very well aware of, and who can do very well as the offensive coordinator and play caller in a pinch when somebody's been fired. Freddy Kitchens, everybody. Freddy Kitchens, the guy who was Greg Williams' play caller when the Browns wound up bouncing Hugh Jackson. And Baker looked terrific to the point where they decided to hire Freddie as the head coach. I proffer to say, if Joe Judge gets bounced, that ain't happening in New York City. But it's Freddy Kitchens now, whose job it is to make Daniel Jones look good enough for the Giants to consider, even in the at this point in time, there's not. I don't care if he looks like Fran Tarkenton over the next month and a half. You can't pick up a 5th-year option on him. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. You've got to basically say, sorry, Daniel, but you're playing here next year, and then we'll see how it goes. What do? Do you hire a new head coach to do that, or you stick with Joe Judge? One thing I would do, and unfortunately, if I'm Dave Gettleman, the general manager, I'm assuming he's renting now. This is a dreadful scenario for the Giants. 21-53. And I'll just say this. I know I'm a Jet fan, and I'm in a glass house throwing a lot of stones right now. I totally get it. But I wasn't part of the franchise that beat Tom Brady twice. All right? Where Eli Manning is telling Bill Parcells in the Manning cast, they say goodbye, always a Giant. Well, how do you keep saying that right now when always a Giant for half a decade is 21-53? And Tom Brady, who you beat twice and are rightfully prideful of that, he's upset he didn't fine-tune well enough against you. That's what I took out of the Brady soundbite. Because we've already been there and done that about his fire and his professionalism and his competitive nature. Him running for a first down last night. Somebody asked him about his 10-yard run, and he's corrected them saying 11 yards. We already know about his competitive nature. We get it. But I took out of that, I'm like, here he is at age 44 going for back-to-back championships with another team, and the Giants are on another coach with another roster that is failing despite having very physically gifted people on it. And he's pissed that he didn't fine-tune well enough to beat them by more than 20. Good luck, Freddy Kitchens, Giants fans, and Joe Judge. Because the judge and jury of the fan base and ownership, which owns a lot of this, is coming again. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.